In 1990, a small group of 4 developers introduced a 3D software called 3D Studio to the world. Those developers were Tom Hudson, Gary Yost, Jack Powell, and later they were joined by Dan Silva. The 4 of them worked on the development of 3D Studio Release 1, a feat that they had achieved by trying to work on 3D tools for creating animations themselves as 3D artists. They were growing the software slowly by adding features that could make 3D animation possible. After the first release in 1990, several other versions of 3D Studio came along to impress the video game and VFX industry with its features and tools that helped artists and studios to create some of the most iconic video games and films of the modern history. 3D Studio started as a project of 4 developers inspired by TV shows and sci-fi movies to become later one of the pillars that millions of architects, video game development, and VFX artists stand on to bring their visions to life. This is the story of 3ds Max. The history of 3D Studio's development began several years before its official launch in October 1990. Its early origins can be traced to Solid States, a 3D wireframe renderer that ran on the Atari 800 and was published by Analog Computing magazine, and CAD 3D, the next incarnation of the software, which was published by Antic Software. Antic Software was being managed by Gary Yost, and thus started the collaboration with Tom Hudson in 3D graphics software development. Gary, Tom, and Jack Powell were the 3 initial members of the Yost Group. In 1988, after their success on the Atari, the Yost Group formed and began the publishing relationship with Autodesk. The team began a new project, THUD, THUD, a modeling and rendering application named by Tom Hudson, the one and only programmer working on the project. The application started out in 4 modules: Shaper, Lofter, Editor, and Material Editor, due to the 640K memory limit on DOS. After joining with Dan Silva, keyframing was introduced, which added the 5th and final module. THUD had turned into a 3D animation program. Autodesk agreed to publish 3D Studio with the new Yost Group and removed the 640K memory limit, allowing the 5 modules to work together. On Halloween of 1990, Autodesk released 3D Studio, the first affordable 3D modeling, rendering, and animation system for the PC. The product was released at an unprecedented price of $3,495 and has not gone up since. 3D Studio was released with an amazing amount of functionality, the ability to draw spline shapes, lofted surfaces, geometric primitives, and basic mesh editing was combined with the object-level keyframing were all revolutionary. A 3D Studio support forum was started on CompuServe and eventually became one of the most heavily used forums on the service. Gary Yost and Jack Powell from the Yost Group became the primary support of 3D Studio and started building the 3D Studio user community. In 1992, the Yost Group produced several suites of plugins that were sold aftermarket to enhance 3D Studio, providing everything from particle systems to lens flares. Planning began on a new object-oriented product codenamed Jaguar, what would become later 3D Studio Max, that took full advantage of Microsoft's upcoming 32-bit operating system and object-oriented programming methods. In 1993, Autodesk released 3D Studio Release 3, with only Dan Silva and Tom Hudson working as developers. Dan gave the Material Editor and Renderer a major overhaul. 2 new extension types were added for bitmap processing and keyframing, and the term IPAS was retired and the term plugin was used from then on. Planning on Jaguar began in earnest, with Tom Britton joining the team from Wavefront to design its Windows framework. In 1994, Autodesk released 3D Studio Release 4. This plugin release added all its new functionality, including invert kinematic, fast preview, and key script. This was the first release where Autodesk provided development assistance other than install or the initial DFX support. Johnny Mnemonic and The Craft were made using this release. After producing an impressive IK module for Release 4, its author, Ralph Portig, was brought onto the Yost Group for Jaguar. The full-time Jaguar development team was then up to 4. A new publishing agreement was made with Unreal Pictures to produce a character animation add-on product for Jaguar, codenamed Cheetah. It was the most complex plugin concept anyone had yet come up with and pushed the architectural needs of Jaguar very early in its design. In 1995, Autodesk announced 3D Studio Max for the Windows NT platform at LICgraph. Crowds were blown away to see interactive shaded textures and objects animated in real time in the viewport for the first time. Also, plugin support for 3ds Max was announced by numerous companies. Endo, believe it or not, was a new concept in 3D packages at that time. With this release, you could animate anything at any time. What took hours to do in 3D Studio Release 4 could be done in seconds in Max of this release. Blizzard Entertainment's Warcraft game was released, and feature film quality cinematics created in 3D Studio of that time, of course. In 1996, Autodesk renamed its multimedia division to Kinetics, with 3D Studio Max as a flagship product. Kinetics shipped 3D Studio Max for Windows NT and showed the shipping product at NAB. The product matched nearly all the features as 3D Studio Release 4 by name, but with tremendously more capability, as you can now model, animate, and change your mind at any time. The Character Studio product was announced at NAB, with skinning being renamed to Physic. A free combustion plugin was posted by the Yost Group at release as the first plugin add-in for 3D Studio Max. Johnny Mnemonic, one of the first films using 3D Studio DOS 4 for visual effects, was released. The dancing baby animation craze happened back then, and it was shipped as Maxine example on product CD. A slightly modified version was rendered on an AVI by a user, sent to a receptionist, and then went viral. The first Tomb Raider action-adventure game was created using 3D Studio. This title was followed by 5 additional games, comic books, novels, theme park rides, and movies. Centering on the game's heroine, Croft was later inducted into Guinness Book World Records as the most successful human video game heroine. In 1997, Autodesk announced 3D Studio Max Release 2, originally codenamed Athena. It had over 1,000 new features and workflow improvements. Major features included selective ray tracing, lens effects, post effects, basic NURBS modeling tools, MaxScript, which is a built-in programming language, and OpenGL support. In 1999, Autodesk acquired Discrete Logic, which led to Discrete Logic and Kinetics becoming the division known as Discrete. Autodesk shipped 3D Studio Release 3 in the same year. In the year 2000, Autodesk shipped 3D Studio Release 4, originally codenamed Magma. 3D Studio Max was renamed 3ds Max, all lowercase, to align with the lowercase naming conventions of Discrete products. Electronic Arts created The Sims using 3ds Max and Maya, which became the best-selling PC game of all time. The release of this year also included new features, including a new IK system, quad menus, contest menus, active shade render preview node, a redesigned modifier stack with support for the drag and drop, a new editable poly modeling toolset, DirectX shader support in viewports, and multi-res mesh optimization. Created with 3ds Max in 2001, 50% Gray was nominated in the Best Animated Short Film category of 2001 Academy Award ceremonies. Also, Halo 1 was released in the same year, breaking sales records. By 2002, this video game, created in part with 3ds Max, sold over 1 million units. In 2002, Discrete released 3ds Max 5, which was the first release entirely done by Autodesk. The biggest addition was the advanced lighting subsystem of the Skyline renderer, including a global illumination module called Light Tracer, a radiosity module, and photometric and daylight support. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell was released. 3ds Max was used and received critical acclaim for both lighting and the light quality of animation. 3ds Max won in the same year an Editor's Choice Award with a 98% rating from NextGenElectronics.com. In the same year, 3ds Max also won an Atomic Hot Award for Atomic Maximum Power Computing magazine, as well as the Seal of Excellence Award from Animation magazine. In 2003, Discrete released 3ds Max 6, The main new features were Mental Ray Renderer, which was incorporated into the base package, particle flow, a refractor schematic view, shell modifier, new vertex paint, refractor 2 dynamics, and network support for render to texture. Also, Kiana the Prophecy movie used 3ds Max right out of the box to create beautiful 3D scenery and characters. In 2004, Discrete released 3ds Max 7. It included the new editable poly tools, new edit poly modifier, support for normal mapping generation and rendering. Mental Ray version 3.3 was included in core, skin morph and skin warp modifiers, turbo smooth modifier. World of Warcraft, created using 3ds Max, became the Guinness Book of World Records title holder for the most popular MMORPG of all time. It was released by Blizzard, and they used 3ds Max to create high-quality detailed art. In 2005, Discrete released 3ds Max 8. The main new features were asset tracking with support for third-party solutions and Autodesk Vault shipping with the package, Max Script Debugger, hair and fur, cloth, major improvement to polygonal modeling, skinning and UV unwrapping, including a pelt mapping system, motion mixer support for non-biped objects. Also in the same year, Autodesk renamed Discrete Autodesk Media and Entertainment. Microsoft Halo 2 was created using 3ds Max, and Maya marks the biggest game debut of all time. 3ds Max was inducted into the Frontline Awards Hall of Fame by Game Developers magazine. In 2006, Autodesk renamed the software Autodesk 3ds Max and released Autodesk 3ds Max 9. This was the first release to include both 32 and 64-bit builds of the software. 3ds Max won the Editor's Pick of the Year award from Soft32.com. Gears of War was GameSpot's Reader Choice winner for 2006. A game created using 3ds Max. They said shockingly good visuals make Gears of War grab you right from the start. In 2007, Autodesk released Autodesk 3ds Max 2008, the first release to adopt an annual naming convention rather than a version number. In 2008, Autodesk released Autodesk 3ds Max 2009 and debuted 3ds Max Design 2009 software, a tailored 3D application for architects, designers, and visualization specialists. 3ds Max Design 2009 included all features offered in 3ds Max 2009 with the exception of the Software Development Toolkit SDK. Both versions of the software include a new Reveal rendering toolset, a Pro Materials editor library, numerous biped enhancements, and new UV editing tools, and improved interoperability with Modblocks, Maya, and Motion Blur. 3ds Max won the Technology and Engineering Awards in the gaming category of visual digital content creation tools, and their impact from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. 3ds Max was also used on the first feature-length 3D movie shot, with the Camera and Pace camera also used on Avatar: Journey to the Center of Earth 3D. In the same year, Autodesk Technology helped game developers execute their creative vision from start to finish. 3ds Max has been used by numerous developers to create games that offer believable characters, wondrous environments, and enthralling gameplay, such as Fallout 3, Far Cry 2, Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, and Prince of Persia. In 2009, Autodesk released Autodesk 3ds Max 2010 and Autodesk 3ds Max Design 2010, offering more than 350 new features, with Autodesk solutions present in all films nominated in the Best Visual Effects category. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button takes home an Oscar. Other films using 3ds Max nominated that year included Iron Man and the short animated feature film This Way Up. Also in the same year, the movie 2012 was released, and it was one of the highest grossing films of the year. Uncharted Territory, the lead visual effects VFX house and co-producers of 2012, created 400 shots using primarily Autodesk 3ds Max for modeling, UV unwrapping, rigging, effects, and animation. Skyline VFX also created over 100 complex water shots for 2012, and over 95% of the shots were fully CG and created with 3ds Max, most of them right out of the box. 3ds Max won Frontline Award for Best Art Tool from Game Developers magazine of that year. In 2010, Autodesk released 3ds Max 2011, the first release to fully support the Windows 7 operating system. Autodesk products were front and center at this year's Oscars, with over 11 nominated films employing Autodesk solutions. On Avatar, the highest grossing movie of all time and winner of Visual Effects Oscar, 3ds Max was used by both Industrial Light and Magic, Matte Department, and Prime Focus VFX animated films. Also, 3ds Max won Game Developer Magazine's Frontline Award for Best Art Tool for the same year. That was a quick summary of the first 20 years of 3ds Max and how it became one of the highest and best software in the industry that was used to create amazing projects over the decades that followed its debut. I hope you found this video informative and entertaining. Please give this video a like if you liked it. Also, you can check some of our previous videos. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one.